Hi guys, it's Professor Fernandez here, and I have a big treat for you. I have a wonderful guest. We're going to talk about Girl. I know that you've probably have read it, and you're probably wondering, what is this thing I'm making you read? I'm making you read wonderfulness. So, special guest, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lupe Mendez. I'm a local writer, poet, and educator here in the area, and it's a pleasure to do this kind of stuff with and for y'all.
Yay! He
Yeah.
also teaches Girl, by the way.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I
you
have
know,
taught this many times.
we both have taught this.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of super excited to talk to him about Girl because I don't think he's a friend of mine, Ovs. And I don't think we've ever talked about this piece before. Like, we've
No,
talked
we
about
have
a
not.
lot of things, but we've never talked about
Not
Girl.
this one. Nope.
So the first question I want to ask you is probably the first question that they have. What the heck is this? what,
Ah.
what is this?
So the funny part is I used to teach high school seniors. And I would assign this at the beginning of the year in order to have them understand the concept that writing is writing is writing, and that genres are a construct to sell books and
Truth.
have things be purchasable when you go to Barnes and Nobles or your local bookstore. Um, but that if you were to ask a writer, hey, what do you write? They're just going to tell you stuff. They're not going to categorize how they write. So, in looking at how Girl functions, I first begin by telling students it's first and foremost a narrative. It's got a story.
Right.
Um, it's a snippet of a story, and it's wound up in beautiful language that covers the lines and blurs the lines between prose and between poetry. Um, if you look at Girl when it's published in anthologies, sometimes it's in a poetry anthology and sometimes it's in a fiction anthology. Um, I wrote a piece um, mirroring the style of how it's written that's run in a sudden fiction collection. And for those of you that are probably wondering what that is, flash fiction, sudden fiction is any piece of uh, creative work that's written in less than 1,500 words.
Right. And it's very,
Um,
very short. That's like very condensed.
super concise,
Yeah, yeah,
super
yeah.
just on the nose, delivers everything in a punch, and that's it, right?
Right.
And so Girl fits that capacity. So you've got this narrative of an older matriarch, um, and you don't have to know, right, all the other elements of this narrative, right? You just know it's an older someone telling a younger someone these are the ways that you do things, and then questioning that someone when they themselves are asking a question about a way to do a thing. And so I think it's a beautifully written piece. Do I think it's either a poem or um, some kind of a prose piece? I stopped worrying about that and just fell in love with the way that the narrative
Right.
rolled out. And so it's got that voice within it that just permeates everything.
Right.
So
It's one of those things, I think when students read it, I don't know if it's been your experience, Lupe, but in my experience, when students read it, they're like, what is this? Right? Because they're used to saying, here is a story, here is a poem, here is this. And then they get this and they're like, okay. And so then they realize maybe after like the second reading, there are no periods. It's a whole line, it's a whole sentence.
right,
And then they're just like, this isn't a story. And then I ask them, what makes you think it's not a story?
right.
Right. And so I think one of the things that I enjoy as a reader of this and as a teacher of this and as a writer is that you have this maturity happening of the girl before your eyes, and you're not even realizing it until you do the second, third read. Right.
Right. I appreciate with the text. I appreciate the way that there's no breath in the whole thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
like when I've taught this before, I've had students tell me, why does it feel like it's my grandma or my aunt or my mom yelling at me about how to do stuff? And I was like, because that's the voice, that's the
Because
tone.
they
Like,
don't breathe.
because they don't breathe. Like, they on top of you about stuff, aren't they? And they're like, yeah, mister, you're right. And I'm like, so it's like, it actually sounds like you yelling at us about X, Y. And I'm like, and that's so if you're getting that, if like it triggers that in you, then it's doing its job. Like it's that good of a piece of literature that it's evoking something and it's causing you to stir in a different way. I always pair this with Fast Car by Tracy Chapman.
You know what? Wait, Fast Car, like the song Fast Car?
Yes, yes, because
Oh, okay.
so what it does is when I link this in teaching, I have the kids, um, I pose the question for in girl, um, what is going on with the matriarch in the story that they feel the necessity to be telling everything the way they're prescribing this to
Right.
the younger individual with such a heavy hand, right? So what's happened in their life that this is the way they've decided to deliver all these pieces of information.
Right.
And in the same breath, I'll have them try to answer the question. Um, the young lady, the voice of the young lady in Fast Car, is this voice the voice of a young girl in high school or the voice of a young lady in college? And the kids are debate both of these concepts often and always, not knowing exactly which is which, but trying to use the evidence within the text to like figure out what it is. We go a whole week with full on in terms of like what.
I'm definitely gonna link. I'm gonna link to that song and definitely in the class because I don't think they would know that song unless like I link to it.
And
Like,
then I print out the lyrics to Fast Car
yeah.
and then ask them, is there a narrative in this song?
Ooh.
And then they're like, oh wait, there is, but we don't know the ending. Well, you kind of have a ending.
Right.
It's not the whole
So,
story. It's a snippet,
right.
and that serve as flash fiction? Can that serve as a poem?
And that's and see and that where you just talked about like the imprint, like the negative space
Right.
is something that's also in girl that I think that a lot of students miss out on because
Right.
you don't know, yeah, you don't know why the matriarchal person is so heavy-handed with I
Right.
have to tell you this thing, right? And you hear maybe from the girl twice, and it's a very,
Right.
very thin voice. You can almost,
Right.
it's almost like a whisper, right? And so then you have this narrative that goes from basic things like what you do Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever, to this
This
is
is
how you get
treat a
rid of a
man.
kid,
How
essentially.
you
How
get rid of a kid. How you
this is
do these things. How do you
right.
survive?
How do you
How do you live?
survive? Right. And so that negative space, like the ending, that last question. So after all this, you're gonna be the type of woman that the baker won't allow to squeeze the bread. Like that ending is so open because what type of woman won't be allowed to squeeze the bread?
Right. Right.
Like so and then you get the whole purpose and the whole argument of the piece right there, I
And
think.
that I think I I laugh. The first time I read the whole story, the whole piece of it, I took it as a story and I laughed at the ending because
Mm-hmm.
it was wild to me that culturally, that's the marker, right?
Right.
In certain cultures, like, well, you're gonna go shopping for things, and people are watching you as you're shopping. So that's that litmus test. Like, are you a person of enough good repute that you're trusted to touch the things at the market, or are you a cualquiera that nobody's going to even want you anywhere near anything? And so
Right.
what are people going to say? What's the family going to think
Right.
about what you're doing, right? And so I read it with such a cultural understanding that I was like, oh, that's the same as what my mom says, X, Y, and
Right.
Z. And like I busted out laughing, and I literally thought like that's a perfect way to end
Right.
this piece, right?
And
So
the idea, I like the thought and the word of survival because
right.
it's not a okay, this is how you live, like this is like the rules of living. this is the rules of survival, because eventually you're going to spit up in the air and catch it like a cualquiera. And I
Right,
already know you're
right,
going to
right,
become the slut that I know that you are becoming, which, by the way, we got to talk about that. Um,
right.
so in order for you to at least fake the funk, you
Well, and
got
it
to do
goes to
this.
what's one of the lines? This is the way to behave in the presence of men who don't know you very well, and this way they won't recognize immediately the slut I have warned you against becoming. Be
Right,
sure to wash your hands every day. Like, why are those two lines placed together? Like, even the way the structure of how the piece is unfolding, there's
right,
such like there's such shade in it that's like beautifully like interspersed, right? And it's almost like this is my older aunt telling me some nonsense. So
okay. Now, is it an older aunt? Is it a grandmother? Is it a mother? Like, who is it that's doing this?
I
Do you
keep
think?
thinking, so when I first read this, I thought it was a mother or a grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And then a part of me feels like it's an elder
Mm-hmm.
for a community.
Mm.
And then I also thought it was like someone's real bitchy aunt. Because you've always got that one tia, right, in your
Right,
whole
that one.
family, that one who never got married, but who got all the advice and knows, what to be doing in XYZ and has every opinion in the world.
Right.
And when you see them, you haven't seen them in 5 years, and you see them, and the first thing that pops out their mouth is, "Oh, well, you're so thin," or "Oh, you
Oh,
eat,
estás gorda.
oh,
Or
estás gorda, ay,
yeah.
bendito, tú no estás comiendo." Like, I wasn't asking for that. Like, who? What is this? And so, but like, so language wise, there's this moment of like at the ending of the story, at the ending of the piece, it's like that clutch pearls. You mean you're gonna be the kind of XYZ that doesn't know how to la la la? Like all of that. And I'm like, no, 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 that's not what I meant. That's what I want to like. I almost feel like that's the reaction from the younger person. That's
Right.
not what I meant. That's not what I meant. I meant this. And then and so I get that feeling as you're reading it. So yeah, I don't know. I know it's an elder, a
Right.
female elder in someone's community or someone's family.
I feel kind of the same. I think it's someone older. It can be a mom, but I'm kind of thinking like it is like the grandma or the great grandma or someone who is very
Like a generational
traditional.
skip. Yeah, yeah.
Right, a generational skip. But I also think that she perhaps at one time was judged harshly,
Right.
or has had a family member who was judged just as harshly, or there has been some sort of like oh, like that woman, that sister of mine, she brought this to the family, and now we have to like
Deal with
suffer
it.
the consequences.
One year one of my kids said, "What if she's a widow? Like, what if she's a widow that survived like 3 husbands?" And I was like, "Oh, that's
Okay.
because like all that life experience is in all these lines. Like,
Right.
oh, what's one of them? This is where is it? Mm, this is how you make a bread pudding. This is how you make a dokuna. This is how you make pepper pot. This is how you make a good medicine for a cold. This is how you make a good medicine to throw away a child before it ever becomes a child. Like who? Like you went from cooking to getting rid of something that wasn't meant to be or making a choice and a decision. Like it goes light, 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 bam. And so that's not something to toy with. Like
Right.
it's an experienced voice that tells you the thing. This is how to catch a fish. This is how to throw back a fish you don't like. And that way something bad won't happen to you. This is how to bully a man. This is how a man bullies you. This is how to love a man. And if that doesn't work,
There are
there
other ways. Yeah.
who like
Right.
what?
Right.
And
Right.
so there's no I think the beauty in the language is that because it's all commas, there's no breath. So you don't get the moment to think that through,
Right.
right? Like it's the same in a family. Like your aunt, or your uncle is off telling you some nonsense. It's like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. When they went to jail when they were 12, don't make sure to get the eggs and la, 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 la. Like they just say something and you're like,
Wait,
huh?
what?
And you don't get 5 seconds to think about it because you're all having to go do something else. And I think that's that language. Like that's the drip of it, right? It's like,
Right.
where are all these things placed?
Right. And that maybe the argument there is like it should be automatic. These big things should be automatic. Like
Right,
you should think of them in the same breath as how to make pepper pot,
right.
you know?
And even if you don't think of them, I'm telling you,
Right.
this is how you should think of them
Right.
because this is the way the world works.
Right. And
And
I am
so,
trying to get you to see this before you become the slut. Can we
right,
talk about the word slut?
slut, right? It's I think it's interesting, especially in the couple of lines that I read, when you think about why would this elder know of all the things that people would consider you a slut for? Is it that they themselves have had to go through that kind of uh, misnomer? Like, have they been labeled this before? Have they had to live through this? Like you said, did somebody else in the family bring this to the family and they've had to deal with it in some way?
Mm-hmm.
Why? And it's also cultural. Like, my wife spoke once of um, when they were thinking of applying for colleges and their father said, well, no, you're going to go to community college here and then you can go later to go out to go to school. And they're like, no, I'm going to go finish and go off to college and do a whole 4 years. And that their father was like, no, you're that you being a slut. Like, why do you want to go spend all that time? And then automatically it's like, no, like, so what in terms of like, is that also a cultural thing? Like,
Right.
do you automatically assume that youth is going to go straight for the nitty gritty, or are they, are they going to live a measured life, right? And
Right.
so either way, I think it's the preparedness and
And the
wanting to see something.
antitrust there, the antitrust.
Right. It's all that. It's
Your
like,
your
why you gotta go
tendency is
that
gonna go
far?
left. It's not
What?
gonna go.
No, it's like my dad when I was younger. He would be like, I'd go where I'd go to work or come back home late. He was like, what do you vago? Andas ahí en la callejero. I'm like, I'm not in the alleys. I'm not at bars. Like, I'm. Why do you always jump to that? Like, I'm here. You're trying to get me here. Like, what is that about? So I think that it always goes back to the language for me. Like,
Right.
where is it placed? How is the heaviness? Why you gotta go slut? Like,
Right.
so
And it's just another example of how this piece goes 0 to 60 so often.
fast, right?
So often. I think I want to talk a little bit about kind of like the symbolism here because, when you read, I think it was the line about blackbirds, you throw stones at blackbirds because they may not be blackbirds at all.
Right,
That line and the idea of that being more symbolic and metaphorical than actual blackbirds. The idea of like you're throwing stones at people, but you don't know if you need to be throwing stones at people and talking about people and whatnot. In conjunction with the fact that this elder is calling this person a slut.
right.
I juxtaposition of that is just
So like I always I had to go look for it just now. It's the
right,
line where it's this is how you iron your father's khaki shirt.
right,
This is
right,
how you iron your father's khaki pants. And then it goes, so they don't have a crease. This is how you grow okra far from the house because okra trees harbor red ants. Like, it's that image, like you're going from growing okra. Okay, like it's a thing of sustenance, it's a thing of food, but don't grow it near the house though, because it's going to attract things to the house. And
right,
so how many of these things are warnings? How
right,
many of these things are how do you work through, right? And the symbolism of the different organisms that are living in the world that are, you know, the parallel to how people function, right?
Right.
And so uh, it's almost like when I read that line, I thought of whenever family tells you, don't tell everybody your business, or don't tell everybody the good news first,
Right.
because what if it doesn't work out? What if it
Right.
messes up? What if you
Right.
start getting the wrong kind of people
Right.
in your circle, right?
Like in Spanish, it's called like dichos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's
So
giving
like all those pieces are in there. And so
all of
I
it.
right.
And those are, I think those are the funnest to try to pick out because they have that double meaning, right? The line about the okra, like, don't grow it near the house because then you'll attract other organisms who are going to come and eat your stuff,
Right.
right? And the blackbirds, and it's almost magical in a way.
It is,
It's
because
magical.
it's referencing both this like natural order
Hmm.
and then the chaos in just living, right? And so it's
Right.
putting those two things together in a way that shouldn't sound at all harmful, but can be taken to that extreme.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Such a great story.
I know.
Did we hit everything? I think we hit everything.
Did we get everything?
Oh, I mean, we could talk about the story for like 10 hours, but we're
This
not
is
going to.
how a man bullies you. This is how to love a man. And if that doesn't work, there are other ways.
What other ways are there, Grandma?
And if they don't work, don't feel too bad about giving up. Like, who? And
You know
there's,
what she's saying.
yeah, I mean, it's this, like, I read that and I was like, such independence.
Right,
Like, culturally is the norm, the gendering, right?
right,
The way the body is treated, how women have been negated, women of color have been negated time and time again throughout history, across every cultural background and history, as a third rate thing, not
right,
even human.
right.
And so, yet still, women persevere and know how to make things run and work,
Hmm.
and can play the game. Like they can finesse the situation so that they still come out on top. And so I think that, like that in particular, when I read those lines, I was like, ooh, like all right, that's what it is.
So let me ask you a question, friend. If
Yes.
you had to rename this story or
Mm.
poem, whatever you're arguing, what name would you give it? Like, what would be the new title?
Um, what's the line? It's towards the end. Mm. This is how to love a man. La la la. If that doesn't work, don't feel too bad on giving up. This is how to spit up in the air if you don't feel like it. This is how to move quick so it doesn't fall on you. This is how to make ends meet.
Okay.
Like that would be the title,
This is how to make ends meet.
because
Okay.
there's such a get up and go.
Hmm.
A, because of the way it's written, but then B, it's like advice at 101 miles an hour, right? Like it's like boom, 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 yeah. And so it's like, this is how you guys just got to make it work, got to make it work. Just let's go, hustle, hustle, hustle. This is how you make it meet. And that's
Right.
it, right? And I think that for me, if I had to pull a line from there to make that the title, that would be it.
Cool.
So yeah,
That's a good one.
so yeah.
Well,
What would
Mr.
you,
Mendez.
did you have a
Oh,
title for it?
I do. I have a title. I would call
What?
it Playbook.
Oh, that, see, even better,
I would call it Playbook.
even better.
Mostly because whenever I think about girl, whenever I reread it every semester. Like every semester I teach it, I reread it. And you would think that by now I would have it memorized. And I kind of sort of do, but that I would not see anything new, but I see new things all the time. And every time I see it, I think of, wow, this is literally how much, and it's weird, how much love does this older woman have for this person, for this little girl becoming a woman, that she says life is not fair, and this is the playbook on how to be able to maneuver
Live it.
this. Yeah, like,
I wonder, I always wanted someone to make a short film with this,
yeah,
because I can envision this thing like all the the suggestions of what to do can be a different scene, but it's so fast, right? Like
right,
the way it would be filmed would be so quick and into it, so you'd get all these different snippets,
right.
and they're all, they're all the playbook stuff. It's almost like I can even envision the little girl with a notebook and a pencil taking notes, like, doing all these different things throughout a say a week, right?
Right.
So yeah, yeah,
Doable.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Professor Mendez.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yes.
Ah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is awesome.
I'm gonna hit stop recording and we can
Okay.
continue talking. But like, we're done, students. I hope this is helpful, and I hope that conversations like this with other people about the pieces that you're reading are helpful, because we're not there to help you. So I hope this helps.
Amen.
All right. Hit and
Bye,
stop.
guys.